This is The Guardian.
Hello, I'm Faye Carruthers and welcome to The Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. The Barclays WSL season finale did not disappoint. What a title race we had, decided on goal difference, with Chelsea lifting their 5th consecutive league title after a 6-0 win over Manchester United. City did their job, but a 2-1 victory over Aston Villa wasn't enough to stop Emma Hayes winning her 16th piece of silverware as she left Chelsea on a high. We'll discuss Viv Miedema and Frank Kirby's fairy tale endings, hand out some of our own end-of-season awards, as well as waxing lyrical about the Lionesses under-17s. Plus, as always, we'll take your questions. And that's today's Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Women's Football Weekly is supported by Google Pixel, the only phone engineered by Google, an official mobile phone of Arsenal Football Club, Liverpool Football Club and the England teams. Google Pixel's working with the FA, Arsenal FC and Liverpool FC to close the visibility gap between men's and women's football with the formation of Pixel FC, a collective of next-generation creators and presenters dedicated to covering the women's game. They'll have exclusive access to players, additional resources and content creation opportunities to give women's football the visibility it deserves. Search Google Store to find out more. What a panel we have today. Susie Wrack, live from a service station somewhere on a motorway somewhere.
Toddington services, all of the highlights for me post WSL season.
Well, listen, being a Luton girl, I know Toddington services very, very well. You're in a good one. They've got an M&S and everything.
It's all relative, isn't it?
It is. Marva, Kreel, a win for Everton on the final day as well.
I know.
Completed it, mate.
Completed it. And Everton men not worrying about relegation for one season at least on the last day, which was very, very nice to have that stress off my back. Sorry, not to rub salt into the wound.
Yeah. That's not to be discussed. And I mean, this just never happens, does it? Double Everton. Rachel Brown-Finnis. How you doing?
Hi, Faye. Sunning it up in Liverpool, I am.
I can see. It looks quite amazing. Costa del Live up there.
Costa del Crosby.
Costa del Crosby. Brilliant. Now then, what a weekend we had. Was it ever really in doubt? Is this the time where the Guardian Women's Football Weekly predictions were correct? OMG. Chelsea lifted their 5th consecutive Barclays WSL title on Saturday, marking the perfect end to Emma Hayes' tenure. There were celebratory scenes at Old Trafford, and it ended up being a double celebration as well, because with Lyon becoming French champions again, Chelsea also now qualify directly for the group stages of next season's Champions League. We did think it was going to be one of those to me to you kind of Chuckle Brothers style days. There was speculation as well that the trophy was sitting halfway up the M6, not knowing its final destination, with Chelsea at Old Trafford, Manchester City in Birmingham. And going into the final day, both sides were level on 52 points, with Chelsea just topping the table on a +2 goal difference. But it just took 2 minutes for us all to realise that actually Chelsea were on a mission and the trophy would indeed be presented at Old Trafford and taken back to West London, because it finished Manchester United 0, Chelsea 6. They were 2 up, in fact, inside 8 minutes. Myra Ramirez scored after 2, and then Johanna Rytting-Kanyard scored after 8. They added 2 more then before the break, Shukanushkan and Ramirez once again, before Melanie Leupolz got another 2 minutes after the restart, and Frank Kirby added the icing and probably the cherry on a very lovely cake late on, her final goal in Chelsea blue. I mean, it was a sensational start, Susie, and they just went for the jugular, didn't they, really? What did you make of the game and of their performance ultimately?
It was just an electric start, and Myra Ramirez in particular, who Emma Hayes said afterwards had only trained half a session the day before and, was a doubt, and they sort of looked at each other in training and she said, I'll be ready. I want to play, kind of thing. Was absolutely unplayable. She's so intelligent, physically strong, just like an absolute powerhouse. And in those opening minutes and getting that first goal, just full display of her talents. I think she ran the show for Chelsea in the first half. I thought she was amazing. But yeah, like staggeringly good performance. And I thought Man United almost looked a little bit shell-shocked by how aggressive Chelsea was sort of pressing, really, really going for that win. But like for me, like the second Arsenal got that win in Manchester against City, you just never ever felt like Chelsea were gonna let that second chance pass by for me.
We actually had a message from Jim Hearson on our email account, Women's Football Weekly, at theguardian.com if you want to message us at all. He said, in a world where it feels that most forwards are nippy little people who can play across the front line, isn't Myra Ramirez a tremendous throwback of a number 9, an absolute unit that will run through brick walls and defenders alike, and it helps that she can find the back of the net as well, Marva?
Yeah, but it's not even just a traditional number 9, because that assist that she got and then her second goal, they're like technical ability to dribble past players as well. Like, it's one thing to be a physical number 9 who can head in the box, but then to also have the sort of slight Lauren James ability of being able to glide past players just makes you a little bit scared of next season actually, and what she might be able to do. But for her to step in, obviously Sam Kerr out, then Mia Fisher out, come in halfway through the season into a different league, like what she's done is just incredible. And that performance is honestly one of the best individual performances I've seen all season. She just bullied that United backline. That one where she got past Turner, like Turner will never want to see that back ever again, but all credit to her.
Yeah, it was an incredible performance. They just didn't know how to cope with her at all, did they? And, actually, Rachel, we shouldn't really ever count out an Emma Hayes side. When you look at the figures, in the space of 3 games, they overturned a goal difference deficit of -7 to win the league with a +7 goal difference, which is just quite incredible, really. What does it show about the mentality of her squad?
It's the mentality, it's the belief, the togetherness of that squad, and also the strategic implementation that Emma Hayes brought. Once they were out of the Champions League and once they just had the league to focus on, which wasn't a huge amount of time, but in the games that they had left, she calculated exactly what they needed to do, who they were going to do it against, and they got it done. It was almost like a mathematical formula was applied. The girls knew exactly what they needed to do, who was going to be doing it, and they just got tick, tick, tick in the last 3 games of the season. So they were so efficient. So, like you were saying, Myra Ramirez was unbelievable. Millie Turner just had the best weekend of her life at Wembley, and been almost flawless in defensive in her defensive capabilities in the FA Cup final, and looked like she could have been 10 years old and playing one of her first matches. That's how kind of that's how juvenile that Myra Ramirez made her. She just bullied her, and not just I'm not picking on Millie Turner because I think she's had a fabulous season, but a little bit of a subpar performance, maybe a literal or maybe metaphorical hangover from the FA Cup final, Manchester United as a whole. And you take a world-class player, as we saw, particularly in the World Cup, Myra Ramirez was absolutely unbelievable. It was so exciting to have her brought to the Women's Super League this season by Emma Hayes, and seemingly a masterstroke of genius, which, we kind of attest many of those to Emma Hayes and what she's done for Chelsea and for the Women's Super League as a whole.
Susie, I know how much you love writing these kind of articles. How did Chelsea and Emma Hayes get the job done? We can read it in The Guardian if we want, or you can just tell us in a brief synopsis.
When I sat down to write that, sort of how Chelsea did it piece, I was thinking, how am I going to write this piece again? Because I've had to do it year on year, the same sort of piece at the end of the season, but still, it is different every single time. There is something particularly special about this season and all the narratives around it. And then just the resilience of this Chelsea team. Obviously, mentality is a big part, but I think the answer to the question of how Chelsea did it is the answer to that is as much the same answer as it is to how City didn't do it and how Arsenal didn't do it. Because, you look at Arsenal, the owner side of our side has the best head-to-head record within the top 3. And then City go on this incredible unbeaten run of 14 games to match Arsenal's record 14-game run and still don't win a league. So, for me, it's the failure of those sides in sort of big moments. Arsenal against keeping consistency against the teams outside the top three, and City dropping points in that game against Arsenal in the kind of 88th minute, and they're 1-0 up and then they lose 2-1 is just as in a sense gifted it to Chelsea.
Well, just want to say yay to me and yay to Susie. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but we both said that we thought that Chelsea were going to win, and that is what happened. The other panellists have let us down and continued the Guardian Women's Football Weekly curse, but Susie, you and I, for once, come up trumps with our decision. I'm patting us on the back. Listen, it was a fairy tale ending in terms of the league for Emma Hayes, but it was also a fairy tale ending for Fran Kirby. She came on in the second half, ending her 9-year Chelsea career in real style, scoring one last time in a Chelsea shirt. And it was perhaps fittingly the last goal of the Emma Hayes era as well. It was pretty special, Marva.
It was. I was actually with Moyo, who's obviously a United fan, and I was like, oh, that's really nice, that Kirby's getting the last goal of Emma Hayes' tenure, but there was still about 5 minutes left, and Moyo was like, it might not be the last goal. There's still a chance this is 7 or 8, but it was the last one. But yeah, just as she came on, I thought, what a nice way to see it out, 5-0 up, about to win the title, and then she goes and does that to just end it even more sweetly. But it was just a great run from her. It's vintage Fran Kirby. It shows what she can do, to run in behind, so calmly slot that pass. You had no doubts that she was going to finish it. And it's just everything that she deserves. She's just been such an iconic player, not only for Chelsea, but for the WSL. And wherever she goes next, what she's done for Chelsea and what she's done. And even in this last season, obviously, probably hasn't played as much as she wanted to. And it's coming to the end of her career, but has still popped up in really important moments, has still been, influential off the bench. And that's the thing with this Chelsea squad. They've just got so many players. Even the fact that Lauren James didn't play this game, it's ridiculous. No other team is not starting Lauren James, regardless of how injured she might be. But it just shows you the squad depth, and Fran Kirby is such a good example of that.
Yeah, she is, and that's a squad that Emma Hayes has assembled. It was her 7th WSL title, 12 years she's been at the club, a project really that she built from the ground up, and has been an era of more or less total dominance over English football. This is what Emma Hayes had to say after the game. I categorically cannot carry on. I don't have another drop to give it. I can't say it's my most enjoyable title, but it's definitely been the toughest, and for that reason probably the sweetest. I'm just so relieved it's over. What did you make of her words, Rach? Are we ever going to see another Emma Hayes grace the WSL stage? Will she ever come back? Is another question.
Certainly not at the kind of fledgling stage that women's football has been at, and then sort of the catalyst that she has been in this new era, Women's Super League being set up since she's been in place at Chelsea, the Women's Super League going fully professional, and she's sort of really spearheaded and been the blueprint for set up the blueprint really from an infrastructure point of view at the club, what other teams would absolutely love to have, what they would love to be like. So she's come in at such a key time that she will forever be the sort of the shining light of this particular era. I would love to have her back in the Women's Super League in the future. Whether she'll eventually come back and manage as a National League team, as far with regards to being a Lionesses manager sometime in the future. Clearly going to do the US Women's Nationals team job, aside from her having a depth and breadth of experience in this country particularly, but abroad from a domestic manager point of view, she will also have this upcoming experience as an international manager to kind of have on a CV should she wish to go into something like that. So, I mean, she's been unbelievable. She's also outside of the Women's Super League, been a brilliant voice for women's football, representing women's football in football in general, and not just in this country, but certainly with the ears and eyes of the media of this country. I think has been influential in a positive light for everybody involved in football. And also, from worldwide, she's respected worldwide across the whole landscape of football, not just women's, but men's, just collectively football. She's regarded one of the best coaches in the world.
Yep, she certainly is. Can't wait to see what she can do. Although, with a heavy heart with the USA, I don't want her to have too much success, but it's difficult, isn't it?
No, we've got Serena Wiegmann now on. I think we've got
That
that
is
for the
true.
world.
That is very, very true. A word on Manchester United, Susie. I mean, they just didn't turn up, did they? We've spoken a lot about Mark Skinner on the pod over the last few weeks. He signed a new contract this week after that historic FA Cup win. But the result kind of put a bit of a dampener on the mood a little bit. He's kind of saying to the press that his team are developing, but how much are we actually seeing that? You know, particularly this season, trophy aside, what have they got to do in the summer?
Oh, so much. I mean, it was such a bad performance. I mean, it was staggeringly bad defensively, for one. Lack of organisation, lack of fight or desire. I don't think there's any doubt that they would have been up for this game, right? Like, it's Chelsea, it's at Old Trafford, it's the final game of the season. They are going to parade that FA Cup trophy around that pitch at the end. Do they want a league trophy being handed over to their opponents on home turf? Obviously not. Like, they were up for that game. I thought it was a really poor performance. I think there's a lot to do. There's huge question marks over the new contract for Mark Skinner. I think, you know, the fact that this performance came a day after his new contract was announced doesn't look good optics wise. You know, they need players, they need depth in their squad, but at the moment, with the way the team is run and managed, I think they're going to struggle to get players to come in. Like, too many big players are coming and either not seen enough minutes or have underperformed. That's what I think could be theirs and Mark's downfall, is that if he cannot convince players that they have a chance coming into his setup, he's going to struggle to recruit them, and that's the thing they need the most.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting off-season, isn't it? And lots of expectation going into the new season for sure. There will be at Manchester City as well. Let's go back to the drama of Saturday afternoon, because in Birmingham, City took to the field at Villa Park in front of their fans, full of hope that they could wrestle the trophy out of Chelsea's grip and win the WSL for the first time in 8 years. It finished Aston Villa 1, Manchester City 2. It was their 18th win of the campaign, thanks to goals from Mary Fowler and Lauren Hemp. You were at Villa Park, Rach. What was the atmosphere like? How quickly did it then change as the news filtered through pretty early on of the Chelsea score?
Yeah, it was great for 3 minutes. And then when Chelsea scored, both, you know, Villa had nothing to shout about really on the pitch, and City fans suddenly were quieting down. And a few minutes later, you know, doubly bad news, another goal at Chelsea. So it was a bit flat for a while. And Manchester City didn't do a lot to rescue that, if I'm being honest. It was quite a flat performance. You talked about Chelsea and how they pressed from the front, were relentless in pressing Manchester United at the back. Didn't really see that from Manchester City. They looked lethargic. They looked a little off the pace. Mary Fowler's goal was absolutely brilliant, and that was a huge lift in the stadium at the time. Wonderful bit of skill, the way she took it on one foot, swiveled, and on full volley struck it home. So that was a technical bit of brilliance that started to lift the crowd. But, you know, after goal kept filtering through, we realised that maybe the jeopardy that could have been on that day, on that final day, was looking more and more unlikely. But do you know what? Credit to Villa, they did play well, and they've had a tough season. You know, it was Carla Ward's farewell, and lots of thousands of fans stayed afterwards to send her off. And also for Steph Horton and her final game of her career, a big send-off for her. So lots of things going on after the game. Unfortunately, the kind of atmosphere and the excitement didn't quite hit peak performance on the day on the pitch.
Susie, look, Rach mentioned Carla Ward departing, and actually I'm sure that the Villa players would have wanted to put in the kind of performance that they did, although ultimately it was defeat. They played really well to send their manager off in a positive way. 3 years she's been there. What impact has she had on the club? And kind of a couple more questions within that, because it feels a little bit worrying at the moment that so many managers are finding the tolls of the job really difficult, particularly female managers with children. Emma Hayes has talked about it. You know, Jonathan Liu wrote a really interesting piece for The Guardian on it. If you want to go and read it, it's really fascinating. What can be done to help and keep the talent that we've got in the WSL?
Yeah, I hope Carla comes back into management pretty quick, to be honest, because she's got so much potential as a manager. Like, she's done so well in the role she's had so far with, you know, you're looking at Birmingham, very, very limited resources there. And then at Aston Villa, like, I think it's been a little bit up and down and, you know, not always the easiest of times. So, you know, I hope it's a short-term thing and not a long-term thing. I hope we see her back next season somewhere. But yeah, I think it's a massive worry that female managers, like, are struggling to sustain motherhood with their jobs. And I was actually chatting to Johnny a little bit around the time he was writing that article on motherhood and management and parenthood and management, full stop, right? Because, like, you look at managers in the men's game and it's celebrated how dedicated they are to what they do and how many sacrifices they make for their job, and that they're all in and they watch the game 24/7 and that they're available for their players at all hours and stuff. And you think about what's behind them is that, you know, often they've got wives who, you know, they earn enough money that their wives can be, you know, at home, unpaid labour, running their entire households for them, to allow them to do this thing that is so celebrated but yet removes them from their family life so much, and you know, it impacts the bond and relationships they're able to have with their children. They're not able to go and do the school run and, like, go and watch, you know, the nativity at Christmas and that kind of stuff, because the level of commitment involved in their job is so severe. And yet we're asking managers in the women's game, men and women, to do the same and to make that level of sacrifice and commitment without the financial backing and support structure that comes from that being built around them. How the hell does Emma Hayes do her weekly shop, right? You know, like, these are questions that we should ask more and challenge more. And it shouldn't be the case that you have to, like, basically put your entire social and personal life to one side to be able to be a manager in football. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't celebrate that. That's a horrible thing, right? Like, we shouldn't have people having to work themselves to the bone to be able to do their jobs. Work-life balance makes you better at your job. So, you know, the idea that that's a good thing should not be celebrated, in my opinion. And a lot more needs to be done to have a look at that in the men's and women's game. It's not something we should be celebrating. It's something we should be challenging and questioning and saying, how do we make this better? I thought Emma Hayes made a brilliant point about potentially the future of co-managers being more common, and, you know, I think there's a decent argument for that.
Yeah, I would agree. And actually in life, not just in football, but particularly in football, I get it, absolutely. Right, that's it for part one. Let us know your thoughts on that, by the way. In part two, we'll look at the rest of the Barclays WSL action and we'll hand out some end of season awards. Welcome back to part two of the Guardian Women's Football Weekly. Let's do a brief run through, shall we, of the rest of the weekend's WSL results. Arsenal finished their campaign with a comprehensive 5-0 victory over Brighton. Alessia Russo scoring a brace, while Viviana Miedemar and Frida Marnham were also on the score sheet. I mean, Susie, we've talked a lot about kind of ending on a high today. Miedemar scoring with almost her first touch in her final game for Arsenal, assisted by Beth Mead. That's a Hollywood script that kind of writes itself, isn't it?
Yeah. I wish you weren't asking me this question. I've been trying to avoid every single video of the, like, end of the match, like, goodbyes and highlight clips and tweets about it being so fitting and beautiful that she scored with her first touch and blah, 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 because I'm trying to pretend it's not happening, which isn't going well for me. But yeah, like, I mean, hugely fitting, such a wonderfully phenomenal player. It shows whichever club, which, you know, I think many believe to be City, is going to, kind of have her back at her best, age 27. I mean, it's just, it's criminal that Arsenal have let her go, in that context. And, really interesting to see how she gets on wherever she does end up. But, just end of an era. Really, really devastating for an Arsenal fan. End of an era of a player who is, in their peak, so formidable, so clinical. The path from Beth Mead to find her as well was just absolutely sublime. And it's a hard one. I don't think I felt like this since Henri left, or Henri or Fabregas left the men's team. I've not felt like this since then.
Oh, bless you. You'll get over it. It's fine. There'll be another replacement. I'm so harsh. I know. It's really soft.
Over Henri and Fabregas. It's not coming, Faye.
Well, yeah, that's very true. Oh, dear. Producer Sophie has just written, the romance is dead. That's it. Mine and your romance, Susie, is done. Listen, earlier on, Marva put onto Twitter, 2 toffees on the pod at the same time. It's an end of season miracle. Everton consolidated that 8th place finish with a 4-0 victory away to Bristol City. I'm going to ask both of you. I'll start with you, Marva. How do you reflect on the toffee season?
A bit up and down. Given I don't want to bring up bad predictions on the pod again, but I would just like to flag that some people, not naming names on this call, might have predicted Everton to go down this season, to which I said sorry. To which I said I don't think they will. So just bringing that one up. But no, I think given the injuries that we've had this season, given the position financially that the club is in, that we've had to sell some of our best players, sold sort of 3 of our starting back 5 as the season's gone on, and given all of that, I do think we've come out quite well in it. I think this was our first comfortable win of the season, but better late than never. And it feels like having a few of those players back, especially Faye back, and being able to play players in their actual positions, funnily enough, looks like we're a stronger team. So hopefully next season we can not only bring a few players in, but keep a few players, off of injury and actually playing, and we might get something a little bit more stable. I felt like last season we had something to build off, and then we just sort of didn't do that. But maybe that was partly because the players we were really building off and the talent were loanee players who have now gone to do brilliant things for their clubs in Jess Park and Nagy Beaver-Jones. So building a team around the players that we do have and that are there permanently. We've got some really, really exciting talent coming through, so hopefully we'll see that next season. And I don't ever want to talk about XG ever again, because that was all I was talking about this whole season, about underperforming the XG. So hopefully I never have to utter those letters again next season.
Yeah, we can't be doing with XG on this pod. No. Rach, what did you think?
Simply put, it could have been worse. I think finished obviously on a high. As Marva said, loads of injuries. I think Brian Sorensen, having him sign a contract, I think he's good. I like what it seems to be building. It's just been hampered by endless injuries. But I am very positive about next season. And I'm excited to see who Everton sign. It's been turmoil for the club as a whole, the whole season. It's been like a bit of an ongoing kind of something just niggling at you. That little negative voice in your head has been, if you're anything to do with Everton. And it's just been hard work this season. And so I understand that that's kind of that feeling, almost that kind of like grey clouds has sort of sat across the whole club. And that's what it's felt like. So I'm hoping that grey cloud is lifted.
Blue skies up ahead for Everton, hopefully. Listen, I was going to be mean and ask you how brilliant Liverpool have been this season, but I'll ask Susie that instead, and I won't ask Susie about Spurs because there was another 4-0 victory at King Power Stadium. It was Liverpool, though, beating Leicester to secure that 4th spot. Leanne Kiernan registering a second-half hat-trick, having come on as a substitute. This is from Joachim on X, Susie. Could Liverpool build on this for next season, or is it just a one-off?
I don't mind bigging up Spurs. I love Robert Villahan, but, Liverpool also, brilliant, absolute phenomenal season. But I think, for anyone who's followed Matt Beer's career, they know he's a fantastically good manager. I think his ability to scout a player from nowhere that you've never heard of is second to none. And yeah, that helps because, when you bring in a player who, kind of no one's really heard of, it's quite easy to build a sense of loyalty there and get a team playing for you and playing together. There's no egos there when you're building a team like that. And I think there's something really exciting about what he's doing at Liverpool. I think the better he does, the more invested the club will become as well. I think it will provide some impetus to the club to, kind of stick with him and put a bit of money behind him. And the fact that, they pipped Manchester United to the post this season is, going to be huge for them, I think. Can they maintain it? Yes, I think they can. I think they can seriously launch a challenge. Not necessarily break up the top three, but maintain fourth and be challenging for fourth at the very least. I think that's completely realistic prospect for them.
Fascinating. Tottenham have also had a great season. First season under Robert Villahamn, 3-1 win over West Ham to wrap things up. How are both sides going to approach the summer window, do you think, Rachel?
I think Tottenham have had a great season. Clearly getting to the FA Cup final was a highlight, and really just kind of edged out. I think the experience of Manchester United, having been there the season before, was the difference between the two sides, managing a massive occasion. And what Robert Villahamn has done is managed his players brilliantly, having Vicky Jackson there as the head coach and seemingly doing the majority of the coaching on the pitch, but Robert Villahamn being that manager. I think they're two completely different skill sets that don't always come with one person. So when we talked about co-managing before, Emma Hayes mentioned that, that's something that for me makes complete sense. A great manager of people up alongside a great coach. But I think Robert Villahamn's been excellent for Spurs. He's certainly a leader they're playing exciting football as well. And he's really kind of blending the sort of the new players, the players that he's brought in with the players who have been the bedrock of the Tottenham team for a number of years. Wrack Spencer has kind of been excellent. She made sort of a mistake in the final, but has been excellent. Aston Neville continues to be absolutely remarkable for a club. I think they got something that's moving in the right direction, Tottenham. So I think they'll be happy overall with the season. On the cusp of silverware was maybe something that they hadn't anticipated this season. But the tough thing is always building on that for next season.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I feel like we're going to have such a competitive season next year. I can't wait to see some of the signings that are going to come into the WSL. But because the 2023-24 season has come to an end, we need to hand out some awards. So I feel like we're all going to pick the same player of the season. Marva, who are you going for?
I've gone for Bunny Shaw.
Rachel?
I've gone for Kiara Keating.
Oh, okay. Suze?
I'm going to keep it mixed up. I'm going to go for Lotte Wubben-Moy. I think Buddy is going to sweep the awards if he should, but I think Lotte Wubben-Moy has had a great season.
I feel like we're just boring then, Marva, because I'm with you. Bunny Shaw for me. But I like the more out-of-the-box thinking, I have to say. Both Kiara Keating and Lotte Wubben-Moy have had brilliant seasons. Goal of the season?
Well, Bunny Shaw was on my list as well for this. I think her goal against Liverpool, that one where it was just like a rocket, was incredible. But shout out, can we do ones that aren't just WSL? Because the Conti Cup, there was a Chloe Kelly one against Liverpool that it just set up beautifully for her, and she just volleyed it with her left foot, which was just it was just so satisfying. So that one's up there for me as well.
Adjudicator says we will allow. Rachel?
Well, marvellous, because I'm going to follow in that same tone of a non-WSL goal. Ella Toons in the FA Cup final sat up beautifully outside of the edge of the box. It was very Ella Toon-esque, being able to curve it right footed into that top corner. That was a thing of beauty.
Susie?
I've got an advantage here because I had to do all my awards for the writers' awards in the paper. I've got Dan Turner v Man City. It was, they Villa went on, lost the game 2-1, but the finish for the Villa goal was absolutely superb. It was lightly behind Dan Turner, it was no look finish. She sort of hooked it into the bottom corner. It was had pace on it. It's just absolutely beautiful.
I loved all of those goals, but I did go for Bunny Shaw's goal against Liverpool. It was just absolutely brilliant. Game of the season, I feel like we might all be going for the same game of the season, although our two Evertonians are maybe not going to want to go for that, but let's see. I'm going for that incredible 4-3 victory for Liverpool. All the context, all the drama, all the fun, everything that we love about the WSL. Marva, which one are you going for?
Well, it kind of depends on if we're going for the best game in terms of quality or the best game in terms of just like nonsense. And
I love a nonsense game.
the one for me that combines both of those. In fact, I've got two. One is the City-Chelsea game with the 100 yellow cards, because that was just beautifully funny, but also the pressure at the end to get an equaliser against. I think they had 8 players on the pitch because someone was off at the time, or it was just ridiculous. So that one there, but also I think there was a West Ham Spurs game that was 4-3, I believe, and it was and you got that great moment of the corner flag and the wind and Mewis trying to put the ball down. It was like, welcome to the WSL. Here's all the glamour of the WSL. So those two are there for me, but a special shout out for I think both Arsenal-Chelsea games, because quality-wise, Arsenal, how well they played against Chelsea at home, and then Chelsea, how well they played against Arsenal at home. I thought both of those were just in terms of quality, very, very high.
So you've picked four games?
I picked 4 games. But I will be my final decision, West Ham Spurs, there you go.
Okay, love it. Rach?
I loved how it teed up the jeopardy towards the end of the season, which was the Manchester City-Arsenal game. It wasn't the best regards of quality, but from a broadcast point of view, or from a neutral point of view, to have that kind of tee up what could be, the evening time Chelsea then when won 8-0, you're just like, oh my God, it's all come down to the last game of the season. So that was amazing as far as the context of the whole season. But do you know what? I'm going FA Cup again. The semi-final, Man United against Chelsea, was unbelievable. For them to beat Chelsea for the first time ever at home in front of a packed out crowd, something they'd never done before, something they overturned compared to last season in the final. I felt like a Man United fan that day. It was absolutely brilliant. I was supposed to be working as well.
Brilliant. Susie?
I'm all about the 4-3 to Liverpool as well. I think that was the moment, right? Like Emma Hayes conceding the league afterwards. Don't get me wrong, I completely agree with Marva. Quality-wise, the defending in that game was absolutely appalling. That Chelsea conceded 3 from set pieces is absolutely mental. So from that point of view, terrible game. But in terms of best match to watch where your mind is just being blown every 30 seconds, it has to be that game. For quality, the Chelsea-Arsenal games.
3 more awards to give out. Most improved player, Marva?
I'll give it to... Lotte Wubben-Moy is up there for me. I think... I've got about 5, I can't lie. But I'll skip all my others and I'm going to instead go for Turland, because I think she deserves it of what she's done for that team.
She has been absolutely brilliant for Brighton, hasn't she, Elizabeth Turland? Rachel?
Well, we also knew what Grace Clinton could do, but she's been sort of club hopping a little bit. But to see her and the influence that she's had at Tottenham this season, it feels like a breakthrough season for Grace Clinton. So I'm going to go with Grace Clinton.
Yeah, Grace Clinton was my choice as well. Susie?
Yeah. See, now I'm thinking I should put Bunny Shaw for best player, because then a lot more than Moy could be most improved. That feels like a sensible thing to do. But no, I'll go Grace Clinton as well, because I've loved watching her. It's been just wonderful to watch. And I hope we get to see her on a pitch regularly next season, regardless of where she is.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out to Jess Park as well, who's had a really good season and just keeps getting better and better. Funniest moment, Marva?
I feel like surely we all have the same here. Of Sockgate for me has to be up there. But also on a personal one, the Merseyside derby, where I was giving it the big one in front of my family as we were all watching it on the FA Player, and then it immediately at halftime cuts to my interview with Missy Bo-Kearns and we're joking about. That was a great one for me, where I had to just go, oh, was that me? No, I don't think so. So that was great in front of my whole family.
Brilliant. Rach?
Yeah, well, I watched Fury against Usyk the other night, but it was nothing compared to Idaval against Hayes on the touchline after that match. So that for me now, in the whole context of how actually lightweight that was, is actually the funniest moment of the season.
Susie?
Gate all the way. The jokes, the DJ that had to step in because of the delay. It was the best atmosphere at Stamford Bridge with that 20-30 minute delay or whatever it was. Absolutely jumping, and then the puns doing the rounds were just elite, absolutely elite. So yeah, it's Sotgate. Sotgate was just brilliant.
It was just a headline maker's dream, wasn't it? Sotgate, not a dream for those involved, and the logistical nightmare and the fact that the broadcasters had to keep going. The poor Sky Sports team having to fill beforehand. So many things. Producer Sophie has also mentioned Stina Blackstenius' goal against Aston Villa, which was also indeed absolutely hilarious.
I've got another funny one. Is Sam Kerr at the end of the game on the weekend thanking Stina Blackstenius?
Oh yes, that was bold. Biggest priority for the league next year. It's not an award, it's a wish list. But let's keep the wish list short. Marva?
I think it's just growing the competitiveness. We've seen it this season, but just that thing of anyone being able to take points off anyone. Whoever wins the league losing more games than just 2 games. And yeah, just it being a little bit more unpredictable because of how competitive it is, which I think it's going in that direction.
RBF?
Building on the surpassing the 1 million attendance rate, which happened at the end of April. That has to be last season, and it has to build for next season. And second thing, as a former player, that ACL prevention research happening now.
Excellent. Susie?
I want every club playing multiple games at their main stadiums. The bar has been set, and it's not just about, we might not fill it. It's the fact that it's the level of respect it shows you have for your women's team, right? And how can you expect fans to want to go and watch a team that you don't value enough to put into your main stadium? If you don't value it, they won't value it. So they've got to be at least 2-3 games a season in the big stadiums. And I'm looking at West Ham screaming, give me anything.
Yeah, I think getting the marketing right is really key. Just want to focus a little bit on England's under-17s. Heartbreak for them in the Euro 2024 final. They suffered a 4-0 defeat to Spain, but despite the result, it was a historic competition for Natalie Henderson's side. They made the final for the first time, and it also means that they qualify for this year's under-17 World Cup, which is huge. Producer Sophie's been in Sweden covering the young Lionesses. Lovely to have you on as always, Soph. What did you make of their performance, and what does it mean for the future of English football? It's quite exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the Spain result was always going to be tricky. Spain, we all know what they can do at all levels of the game and how good they are with their kind of development. And it was always going to be the biggest hurdle to come up against. But I think when you look at the young Lionesses throughout the season in competitive games, they've won 10 and lost 1 of them. I mean, that's quite ridiculous for a season of, success. And I think the other point is that there's so much diverse talent coming through, not just in terms of an ethnicity, which is growing, but also in terms of where players are coming from, in terms of, they're coming from boys football, mixed football, from ETCs, from Arsenal academies. Whereas I think before it always used to come maybe from the Arsenal academy, and there wasn't that kind of diversity and kind of education of these football players. And I think that can only serve them going forward and going into senior football. There's such a long road ahead of them, but I think the potential is there, and I'm very, very excited, that's for sure.
Oh, you've made me very excited about it as well. Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Sophie. Appreciate that. Celtic, by the way, we need to wrap up what happened in the Scottish Women's Premier League. They've won it for the first time, Celtic. Elena Sadiku's side had been on a 14-game unbeaten run, but they still needed a 90th minute strike from Amy Gallagher to pip Rangers to the trophy. Absolute drama on the final day. And Marva Macca has asked on X what you thought of the SWPL final day drama.
Yeah, it was almost like their Aguero moment in that one. It was they needed to win, and they scored a last 90-minute or 89th minute winner. Just took it around a player, slotted it home nicely. But it's really nice to see the kind of the competitiveness in that league growing as well. A bit of back and forth. No offence to Scottish Premier League fans, but sometimes that's not always the case in the men's side of things. So to see it go down to the last day in the women's one is really nice to see.
Yeah, most definitely. And looking forward to a really competitive season next year as well. Congratulations to Celtic. Huge congratulations as well to friend of the pod, Salon Andy Hickman, whose Dulwich Hamlet team secured promotion to the FA Women's National League yesterday. After a night of celebrations, I can't wait to hear what her voice sounds like. They did look absolutely epic. She sent us this voice note on their achievements.
Hello, wonderful Guardian Women's Football Weekly panel and listeners. It's Salon here. I have lost my voice, I have lost my Dulwich Hamlet bucket hat, and I have lost my league winners medal. But I've gained a lot of memories and promotion to the FA Women's National League, so swings and roundabouts really. Yesterday was one of the most special days ever. We did it, we won the league. We won London South East Women's Regional Football League, or whatever long name it is, and we will be going into the FA Women's National League next year. It was incredibly special, and I'm just so grateful to have achieved that with this team. We've won the league 3 points clear. I'm off to get a tattoo with the rest of the team to mark what an incredibly special season it has been, and we are so excited to be playing in Tier 4 next season. But massive thank you to everyone who has watched or supported us or come to a game or tweeted about us, anything this season. It's such a privilege.
Wonderful stuff, Salon. Hopefully we'll speak to Salon in the next couple of weeks as well, when she can actually remember what happened during her celebrations. Finally, one other little piece of business to note. The 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup is heading to Brazil. It's the first time a South American country is going to host the tournament after the FIFA Council voted for it last week. Any thoughts on that?
Cannot wait. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that it could be really impactful culturally in Brazil, like the respect for women's football and the level of misogyny in society generally isn't amazing, but football has an ability to cut through barriers like that, and a World Cup on home soil. I know she's retired, but Marta, the face of it, the Colombian fans that travelled to Australia, the Argentinian fans that travelled, it could be really impactful at shifting attitudes from the bottom up, which I don't necessarily think would happen everywhere, but I think in Brazil there is the potential for that in a really positive way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm quite excited. It was looking very Rio de Janeiro, where Rachel Brown-Finnis was when we started talking to her on the pod. She's now taken the sunglasses off and the jumper is on. And Costa del Crosby is now back to just Crosby. It's been lovely to see you, Rach.
Thank you, Faye, and I can't wait for Brazil. I mean, we're all going to be thinking a World Cup without Marta. Well, sorry, she's back. She'll be there for that one.
Absolutely, in a totally different form. Marva, always brilliant to see you. Up the toffees.
Up the toffees.
Women's only. Susie Wrack, I will see you soon.
See you soon, hopefully around an England camp, because the season never ends.
See you later, and have a fantastic time out in Bilbao with producer Sophie. Next week we'll be talking about Barcelona against Lyon, the Women's Champions League final, Saturday, 4:45 kickoff. If you want to watch it, by the way, it's on TNT Sports 2, and Sophie and Susie will be out in Bilbao and will send us a voice note for next week's pod of their actual on-the-whistle thoughts. By the way, keep having your say by sending in your questions via X or emailing us at womensfootballweekly@theguardian.com. And as ever, a reminder to sign up for our bi-weekly women's football newsletter. All you need to do is search Moving the Goalposts Sign Up. In Tuesday's edition, Magdalena Eriksson looks back at her first season in Germany. And on Thursday, Alex Ibaseta speaks to Barcelona manager Jonathan Heraldez ahead of the Champions League final. The Guardian Women's Football Weekly is produced by Sophie Downey and Joshan Chana. Music composition was by Laura Iredale. Our executive producer is Salamat. Women's Football Weekly is supported by Google Pixel, the only phone engineered by Google and official mobile phone of Arsenal Football Club, Liverpool Football Club and the England teams. Engineered by Google, the Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are fast and secure with the most advanced Pixel cameras yet. And Google AI powers amazing features for photos and video so you can get even closer to the game. Search Google Store to find out more.
This is The Guardian.